their seats, that would be very kind. Thank you very much indeed. So we've got a great deal to get through this afternoon, so it'd be good to get started. Just before we get into the report back, Joran from Germany just wanted to make a quick announcement, so he's going to come up on stage. No, Joran. There you go.
Thanks a lot. I only have 30 seconds, so I just invite you to get out your smartphones and take a picture of this slide, because this is an invitation. We're doing an OER Camp Global. What this is, you may not know yet, but you can learn about it at the website oercamp.global. It's an unconference format online. We've done this during COVID with participants from 75 plus countries. We're hosting this in close cooperation with the German Commission for UNESCO. Very, very grateful for it and for the funding from the German ministry. Everyone can contribute their own sessions, bring in their own agenda, their own questions even, and work together with people from all over the world. 30 seconds, out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And just a tremendous amount of work has gone into the last day and a half with 5 breakout sessions and everything happening in there. And that has required an enormous amount of work by the team who built the set and the team who are handling all the technology and the translators and the ushers. And I think if we could just give a round of applause to those who have made all this possible. Thank you very much indeed. And without further ado, let's get on with the report back. It's going to be moderated by Patrick Walsh from SDSN, and there are going to be 5 synthesizers from the various breakouts joining him on stage. So please, over to you. Hi, do you want to?
So thank you, Adam. So could we invite the rapporteurs up? So just to hopefully explain this properly, so we do have, if you look at the Dubai, this is the Dubai Call for Action or Dubai Declaration. The idea here is that we obviously have an instrument called the OER Recommendation of UNESCO in 2019, and it's a legal instrument, and it's great that countries report on it, and there's also a follow-up and review that they show the progress on it. And then we have the Congress to look at how we can implement it. But we do have an opportunity here to actually contribute to a declaration called the Dubai Declaration, or Dubai Call for Action. And the process here has, of course, in the breakout sessions and even in the plenaries and around the coffee tables, these 5 have been reporting and synthesizing what they've been hearing on the following recommendations that are obviously in the draft Dubai Declaration. Now, the good news is that we don't have to finalize it today. So what we're doing is seeing what's happened, the document will be updated, and we'll get another chance to look at it. And then at a future date, it will be signed, and we will have our Dubai Declaration. And the hope is, of course, with the team at the conference and some of the great ideas, that this will be very informative for the states and people trying to implement OER and the OER recommendation, both as partners and by the states themselves. So this is what we're doing today. Now, I'm not going to do very much except explain this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over, just to explain the 5 areas though, I should just say that, okay? So we have to, on the 0 draft Dubai Declaration, we're going to make some comments on 1, capacity building for a new workforce. The second area, our call for action, is policies for a comprehensive digital commons. Then we have quality. The next one is quality, accessibility to leave no one behind. The 4th one is sustainability of digital public goods. And finally, the 5th one is partnerships to improve digital cooperation. So they were the areas that the rapporteurs were asked to synthesize around the Congress over the last 2 days. And like I say, we're going to take these seriously, but when we're actually updating the document, we'll still be open for comments if people are feeling strongly in the audience to actually get a near perfect Dubai Declaration to carry under the instrument going forward to implement the OER recommendation 2019. So I'll hand it over to one of the repertoires. Was it Jim? No. Neil? And he's going to run the show because they've worked it out between themselves how they're actually going to report back. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Neil Butcher from OER Africa. I've been one of the people assigned to try and summarize some of the critical issues emerging in each of these 5 areas. So as you've heard, what we're going to try to do now is try and reflect back as best as we can with very limited time to prepare some of the critical issues that we think have arisen from the conference in each of these 5 areas around which the Dubai Declaration has been drafted, and then give our view as to what some of the implications that might be in terms of a call to action moving forward from this Congress. As you've heard from the chair, this is a work in progress, so we're not going to be finalizing this or trying to do editorial wordsmithing in this session. It's really just to share back with you some of the key things that we've heard coming from the conference, and then to give you an opportunity also to make your inputs into that, so that we can then put that all into the final process of drafting and completing the Dubai Declaration as a call for action, obviously within the auspices of the broader UNESCO OER recommendation. So I'm going to hand over first to Vincent, who will be focusing on the area of capacity building to give his reflections. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you. So going through what we discussed from the breakup sessions on the capacity building. So we looked at different strategies to build digital skills for managing open educational resources. We also focused on the national capacity building and teacher training through the use of UNESCO ICT CFT. UNESCO is developed different framework for teacher training program. So we came up with kind of the recommendation. So one, we looked at the participants suggested that there is a need to promote training program adapted to local needs. So we also looked at different MOOCs. So there was also needs so to have on hands-on workshop and also the hybrid learning models to strengthen the digital skills, because this is, we are looking at the capacity building. There was also need to focus on digital ethics and responsible use of emerging technology. So how can we use all these technologies to improve the open educational resources and also to enrich the respective licenses that are available. So that was on the teacher training. So another point to emphasize was the employability and virtual universities. So there was a need to adopt the approach for Commonwealth of Learning. So where we looked at to combine digital training with employability. So there was a need to strengthen the integration of OERs into virtual programs focusing on digital skills and also making sure that they are relevant to the labor market, and as well as the digital intelligence program like artificial intelligence, ensuring inclusive to graduate so that they can access this program for marginalized group. For example, we looked at the different marginalized group. So the third point was to assess the skills and certification programs. So we looked at the best practices to develop mechanism to assess digital skills required for open education resources. So where there is a need to create a standardized tools to validate these digital tools and also align the certification with international standards. The first one was development of inclusive digital infrastructure. So we looked at, for example, in South Africa, where we looked at different OER platforms that have demonstrated potential to foster regional collaboration. So different examples were given, like collaborate with public and private partnership to improve the accessibility of open education resources. So this was really an area that the participants from the breakout session ensured that we need to have this connectivity and also look at the marginalized teachers and learners from the remote areas. So the point 5 on the recommendations, we looked at promoting the best practices and ensuring the sharing experience. So we looked at different international standards, also looking at the international exchanges, for example, having the virtual universities exchanging teacher training and also employability, developing a collaborative platform to share these tools, and also the feedback for continuous improvement of the open education resources. So there was also a need to strengthen capacity building on open licensing and sustainability. So the participants highlighted the critical areas such as also encouraging public-private funding to fund these initiatives to support long-term open education resources. So to make sure that these frameworks are really available on the international, on different platforms. So the key points from the participants regarding the above recommendation for capacity building. So we look at, so there is a need to use UNESCO ICT safety to develop different programs. We look at also the MOOCs, how can the MOOCs and workshop to encourage the hybrid learning. So there is also a focus on ethical practice and emerging technologies such as generative AI, on how it can support all these recommendations. So there was also, another key point was employability and virtual universities. So where we need to link open education resources with employability skills-focused program that would help to promote and address these current needs in AI and digital tools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent. That's a very comprehensive overview in a short time, so congratulations. I've been asked to focus on the area of policies for comprehensive digital commons for learning. I think looking across the Congress as a whole, what's really come through very clearly is a strong affirmation of the importance of ensuring that policies are in place. And that applies to the specific areas that are mentioned under the recommendations in the Dubai Declaration, but I also think is a reminder of the original action area contained in the OER recommendation itself, which is that critical to the sustainability of any open initiatives, any OER initiatives, is making sure that there is structured, documented government support for those initiatives that is enshrined in policy, and that makes very strong commitments to the principles of openness and open licensing as a preferred methodology for sharing intellectual property. What's also come through clearly as we've moved into a world where there are all these technologies emerging under the collective noun of artificial intelligence is that we also need to make stronger connections in our policies between the different open aspects of government. So when the OER recommendation was first approved, we focused very strongly on OER and open education, but I think open science, open data, open access, all of these different areas of openness in government are becoming increasingly important, and we're seeing the connections between them. So the Congress and participants have spoken very strongly about the need to ensure that that policy development is not happening in silos that don't speak to each other, that we ensure that openness is a government-wide program supported by integrated policies. So that really is, has emerged very clearly as a strong imperative. Obviously, everyone is on the one hand excited about AI and also concerned about some of the risks. And again, the strong affirmation coming from this Congress, which I think is already enshrined in the recommendations in the Dubai Declaration, Sorry, the text is a bit small on the screen, but hopefully you all still have your links to this document from the various emails that have been circulated, is that we ensure that this is not a process that is the Wild West, where everybody can just do what they like without any particular guidance or consequences, that we need to make sure that we're collaborating between countries to come up with common definitions, common understandings, and that we're putting common regulations to guide this process in place. That is going to be very difficult given the pace of change, but I think it is a challenge to us all to try to make sure that we're not allowing what's happening in the private sector to simply overwhelm education systems and to take over. And also, to a certain extent, that we are judicious in our understanding about where the possibilities exist to enhance education using AI, and also potentially where we need to be protecting learners from some of the potential downsides and risks of those technologies. All of that has been discussed again at length, as we've also obviously affirmed the opportunities that lie in this new field. And then the last thing I think that's come through very clearly, for me anyway, has just been a reminder through the various sessions that I've been listening to and ones that I've had the privilege of being able to chair, is just the importance of remembering the human dimension of education, that ultimately education is a process of interaction between educators and learners, and that we always remember that the humans are at the center of all educational processes and not the technologies or the technology companies. And from a policy perspective, I think one of the critical ways in which that needs to be reflected is to remember that the goal of open licensing and OER is not to cut the cost of education. It's not to reduce spending on developing high-quality teaching and learning materials and to hand that over to technology companies to automate that. It's rather to use the tools at our disposal to make sure that we target our investments in content creation and adaptation in more purposeful ways to ensure that we're taking account of where the gaps are the greatest. So where languages are radically underrepresented in the open licensing and OER space, we should be investing systematically in ensuring that new content is being created in those languages, or that existing resources are being translated into those languages, so that we're opening access to education and teaching and learning materials to more people. Also making sure that the world of OER online represents the full diversity and richness of all of the countries of the world and the people of the world, and that it's not, as has been the case in the past, continuing to be dominated by only a few parts of the world and a few cultures. That is not something that's going to happen automatically. It's not something that can be automated. It requires purposeful policy declarations and purposeful investment to make sure that we are moving the world to a more equitable place where there is a space for all. So I think my sort of key takeaway would be that I think with some, maybe a few modifications, we have in the policy section of the Dubai Declaration some strong statements that can guide us for the way forward and make sure that we harness the best of AI and digital public goods, but also that we have a concerted call to action to invest heavily in those areas where inequities exist and we need to restore the balance. So that's the input from the policy side. Obviously, we're trying to get through these, so we give you an overview of all the different areas because they're strongly integrated, and we'd like to open up as soon as possible after that. So I'm going to go through the other three speakers, and then we'll open up for the floor to hear more. So I turn over to Gihan to talk about quality and accessibility to leave no one behind. It's already on.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So my area was on inclusiveness and equitable access to quality OER, and I think the Congress here emphasized throughout the universal right to quality OER and not just access to open educational resources to everyone, including the most marginalized and vulnerable. So we saw many examples and presentations from across the world that showed how, not only how vulnerable communities addressed quality and ensured quality of open educational resources. But we also saw many examples that showed that vulnerability and inclusiveness can mean different things in different parts of the world, and that vulnerability changes due to many variables. So that led us to one of the most important things that we talked about. So we saw many diverse models. From Mexico, small island states, from Africa, and all of these models are very unique. They show the importance of contextualizing the OER models that we use depending on the context that we are addressing and the vulnerabilities that we are addressing. But it also showed the importance of finding a way to share these different examples that we can all learn from and maybe adapt and use to our own contexts of so that we include everyone. So that would be an area where we might want to think as how can we collect those different models and extract some of the best practices that we can use in that area. One of the recommendations that we captured across sessions is the importance of contextualization, but also the importance of including communities in the way we design and think of these models, so that their voice is shared in terms of how they regard themselves as vulnerable and what are the challenges, so that we come up with models that are more effective. The other point seems seemingly opposite in direction, which talks a lot about the importance of us collaborating together. So although we are unique, we need to collaborate further so that we can reach and scale up our efforts so that we reach the most vulnerable in ways that are meaningful and relevant to the communities that we are addressing. We saw a lot of fantastic models and achievements, but yet we seem to be, in many areas, we seem to be reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch instead of building on each other's efforts and thereby reaching, scaling up and having more impact on those who need it most. So that is another area to think about. What are the mechanisms that would allow us to scale up our efforts to achieve synergy from collaborating together? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gihan. So we move straight on to Jane, who's focusing on the areas around sustainability of digital public goods. So over to you, Jane.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sustainability models for OER, we affirmed that sustainability frameworks are very vital for the long-term viability of OER, and these frameworks should address sustainability, sustainable funding, protection of intellectual property, right, and sustainable practices through multi-stakeholder participation. And the key elements that came out are considerations about OER sustainability in the developing world should focus on investing in proven interventions that solve real-life, real-world problems that can be sustained through ongoing annual government education budget. We also observe that there are many excellent practices from across the globe, and that government and educational institutions can learn from and emulate to enhance sustainability. Strategies to capture and share these good practices can enhance cost-effective and long-term sustainability of OER practices. There is also need to invest in capacity building of teachers on innovative and responsible use of AI as well as judicious harnessing of openly licensed content. There is also a need to look at the changing nature of OER to determine the new role of OER and how this role can be sustained. We also observe the crucial role of existing global and regional network of experts and expertise, and infrastructural support should be recognized and supported. Finally, there is need to respect and encourage local content and support localization of international OER content. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jane. And last but not least, we have Lisa, who will be talking about international cooperation or partnerships to improve digital cooperation. So over to you, Lisa.
Great, thank you. In some ways, I just want to take everything that my colleagues have just said and then say, let us make sure to promote international cooperation among all of these issues. So that being said, if you look at the current draft of the Dubai Declaration, there's 4 areas that recommendations. One is around communities to look at the responsible development of AI. The second one is about legal licenses and intellectual property. We've heard that here. The third one is around research and development centers. And then the fourth one is around OER repositories and making sure that we develop and implement policies that in fact label AI so we know what it is or understand how AI is being used in authoring. So those are the 4 that are there now, but being here for the last 2 days, there's certainly other issues and themes that have emerged, many of which we've already just heard, but let me mention a couple of ones we haven't heard yet. One is we really need some international cooperation around accessibility and universal design for learning. Everybody knows this is important, and I think many organizations are trying to do some piece of it in their own way. There's so much, as I think it was Jihan said, about reinventing the wheel that we don't need to be doing. There's some great research, there's some great practice around universal design for learning and accessibility, and it's time we really think about how to create OER that is born accessible. The second piece, again, that I heard as a theme was around the issue of protecting human rights around AI. That's around privacy, around security. The misinformation is something that is just alarming and is impacting us globally. And if we don't address it at the education level, that is the place we have to start work. And we're only going to do this if we work collaboratively across countries. A couple more areas, just one thing. It's really important for us to figure out how to get libraries into the mix. If those of you who are really on the ground with OER in institutions, you know that libraries and librarians are probably one of the most important gateways for these institutions. Just curious, do we have librarians here? Some of my favorite people. A few librarians, okay. So we need to have some collaboration around the librarian organizations. Again, they're regional, they're national, they're global. I think there ought to be something in this declaration about the role of libraries and that collaboration. I think Neil mentioned this, but I think this is going to be so important. We've just started to see some of this, but we can no longer work in this silo of OER. Many of us for a couple of decades have been carrying this OER flag. And it's time we reach across to our cousins in open access, that's open publishing, open data, open science, even the open source software. They've been doing this for 4+ decades, and there's a lot we could learn if we work together, and especially as we're now confronted with so many of these challenges around AI and some of the challenges around AI. So it's time we really look at open, all of these aspects of open, and really see this as an international cooperative effort. My last point is that I think we've heard a lot about the digital public good, and that I think probably everybody in this room believes that education is a public good and a human right. If it's really a public good, that means we have to take a good hard look at these issues around commercial versus non-commercial use. And I think as a public good, we are talking about efforts that are non-commercial. And we need to, again, I think, look across internationally to say how we can, in fact, be stronger together in this public good, in this public agenda around open education, as opposed to looking for easy solutions that large-scale technology is selling to the field of education. So I think those are my main points. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Lisa. So that's a whistle-stop tour through the 5 action areas, some of the key things that we heard coming out of the Congress over the 2 days. Obviously, we couldn't be everywhere at once, so no doubt there are gaps in what we've said that we need to plug. As you've obviously also heard, quite a lot of what we're speaking about is already covered in the Dubai Declaration, but there are some points of amplification and some gaps that we've identified that we will write up a bit more systematically and then share with our colleagues at UNESCO to integrate into the final text of the Dubai Declaration. But we'd like to open up now for the remaining 25 minutes of this session to give you as the audience an opportunity, maybe I think, to do 2 things. First is to flag critical issues that you think we haven't addressed that need to find their way into the Dubai Declaration and tell us what those are. And secondly, if you think that there's something that we've raised that is especially important that you'd like to amplify, please also feel free to do that, because that will help us, and I think our colleagues at UNESCO, to hear that this is a particularly important issue that we need to make sure is in the final call. So with that small brief, I open up to the audience to hear any additional inputs or comments from you that you'd like to make. I'm going to take the hands as I see them. So first hand over here, if we can bring the microphone to the middle. And I'll be looking for other hands in the meantime, so please feel free to signal.
Hello, my name is Bushra Kadura, and I represent the Sharjah Private Education Authority. This is really, thank you very much for summarizing and putting it into context. And looking at the open educational resources, all the resources that UNESCO has and open that, the only thing what was missing though is where you have a bank of all these research, because that's what we need. And these research, if we evaluate them according to a criteria, then let's say I want for early years. It took me 5 days to figure out what are the intervention globally for parenting. If I have this in one bank, categorized, and saying this could be scaled up, then that would facilitate and will also improve the cooperation among nations. So it's really, I agree with you, Jihan, that we are still working in silos. The second point that I wanted to make sure is that we're still thinking, I'm talking about the Emirates and most of the Arab world, we're looking at policies, but not evidence-based from research. So again, if we have more congresses on the research, like the one that was done in Paris by the UNESCO, and how it can drive the policies, and then the policies will drive the applied research and the best practices, then that would be an easier routing to do. Because it's too fast. By the time they think about doing something, they're just moving. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have the second hand back there. Just as the microphone is coming there, I'll just say I think the Dynamic Coalition portal could be an excellent vehicle for the sharing of the research that you were talking about. So I think that's something we should look at.
Just a thank you to assimilating some of the ideas that were raised across the different breakout sessions. I know there were still a lot of ideas that probably didn't percolate up to the readouts, and I know people raised solutions in some breakout sessions that were maybe questioned or were looked for in other breakout sessions. So I was wondering if there was a way for us to stay in contact, like maybe we could get a participant contact list, or we could sign up to volunteer our information in some way so we can keep discussions going.
I'm wanting to avoid being in the situation where I say every problem is solved by the Dynamic Coalition portal, but it also does seem like the logical vehicle for that. But thank you for that. I have the next hand in front here. Sorry.
I think in first.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand, so it's not you. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ingrid Parrott-Wilmot from Jamaica. And I just want to build on what she said a while ago. When I look, the question I'd ask from all of this is what's next? And, you know, we've heard some really brilliant ideas, etc. But until we have all the data, we come together and we hold ourselves accountable. We've spent this wonderful 2 days together. We've got all of this. What's next? And out of this, when do you come back and report what came out of this? What's the impact of these 2 days?
Thank you. I was going to say we implement all the recommendations by this time next year and we're finished. But I'll leave that. I think that's something that in the closing session we can ask our colleagues from UNESCO to give us some guidance as to what the way forward will be. That's several levels above my pay grade anyway. But it's a good question. Next comment is here, and then I'll take one further back.
So mine is a comment and an observation. I've always found internet to be a great medium of serendipity. I know nothing about OER or Congress before I walked into this by sheer act of serendipity. But having heard many of the sessions, I can only see as an AI practitioner in business that I think there's a huge amount of synthetic data that is going to be adding to the knowledge base. And the amplification of that synthetic data to the good, because it brings a lot of combinatorial technologies together of multiple disciplines, is one area of vector that is going to add positively. The other areas will create a lot of dissonance. And towards both of these areas, I did not see anything specific. Perhaps I did not have any access to the links, but that's a comment that I wanted to make. This is also something that we can see evidenced in the way the Nobel Committee is awarded the DeepMind folks from Google as well as the physicians who are bringing some amount of classical knowledge with the area of new AI and machine learning. And that's a trajectory that will only amplify going forward. It is the observation that I want to make.
Thank you so much. Next hand I have is back there. So if we can take the microphone there.
Yes, thank you all for this excellent conference. And I just take this opportunity to answer to former question. It is possible to stay in touch on OEG Connect, Open Education Global Social Network. And I am the president of the board of Open Education Global, and we have just set up last week in Brisbane an open discussion group on open education and technologies. So if you have a precise idea, I invite you to join this group that will be open very, very soon on OEG Connect, dedicated to making it happen. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next hand I have is in the front here. If we can take that one. And then if we can move a microphone to the back there. You've got your microphone. I'll take you next. And then I'll come to you and then to you.
Ebba Nelson, Sweden. I'm also from the ICD, International Council for Open and Distance Education, for the OER Advocacy Committee. Thank you so much for your suggestions for the amendment to the draft declaration. I think it's all very good. But I was also thinking and reflecting, having read the declaration, of course, having done the survey, and also we have done that with the OER Advocacy Committee, responded to that. I was thinking this declaration will last for some 7 years. Could it, should it be even more provocative, maybe more foreseen? I don't have the answers right now, but I know that we have come up with some ideas for during the survey. But I think 7 years ahead, quite a lot will happen. Thank you.
It is a provocative point, so we'll leave that to be thought about. Next is back here, and then I'll be coming forward here. Then I'm going to, over here next, please.
So thank you for this report. and the work you're doing here. I just want to reemphasize something that Lisa mentioned about librarians and also the need to connect with our open cousins. Is that how you said it, Lisa? Because I think librarians are the ones who are doing that work every single day, particularly in tertiary education and higher education. So I just want my UNESCO colleagues to hear that as you requested, that if there's a way to put into this declaration something specific to library science, knowledge management, I don't know what the right terms are, but that really highlight the need. It's unfortunate that there aren't more librarians here, and maybe this isn't the venue where they would be, but it's emblematic that they're doing a lot of this work every single day, and if we can lift them up and give them legitimacy, I think that will go a long way to sustainability of these efforts.
Thank you. I always like it when there's a plug being made for librarians. I think my colleague and Kim from the African Librarians Association will be on your team as well, so that's great. Next is here, then I'm coming here next.
Right? Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. Jumana Shhade from the education field. In fact, this is an engagement of high seniority level at as to the skill and the scope. And I would believe from an educational perspective that scholastic effort is a quite important aspect of it. I would just recommend that we fragment the 5 parameters or areas of capacity building, inclusivity, sustainability, and yeah.
Could we possibly take this slide, can we take this off the screen?
This into the school level, because these schools could be incubators for OER. If we just try to think about it, that we spread more awareness in the educational institutions. And what about the role of the stakeholders as well? Because this is a massive project that needs a sponsorship and it needs collaboration from stakeholders. We could, like edupreneurs who are really talented enough to look at the educational field from different points of view into their, let's say, targets or financial targets. So scholastic effort are important. This is what my point is actually, and thank you.
Thank you so much. The next hand I have is over here, and then I've got one back there.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. It's a very wonderful session and the nice insights where everyone is talking about. So my point here is very easy one. Is OER a global standard, or it will be based on the country levels or their own respective standards or rules, regulations?
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to fall into the trap of trying to answer that myself, but I'm inviting my colleagues at the back to start thinking about some of the points that are being made here, and I'll give you a few minutes at the end just to each give it their points of view. I think the OER recommendation is also something that does, I think, speak to the interpretation of OER. And for me, that's the underpinning document behind the Dubai Declaration. So it will give some guidance as well. That'll be my politically safe answer for now. But let's move over here, and if maybe someone wants to think about an answer to that question.
Hello, my name is Heike. I'm from Wikimedia Germany, and I would just come back to what Albert said, to be more provocative and this long-term scope, because I was wondering whether we have to redefine openness, because I think we had different definitions of what is open, especially when talking about AI. So, and we had a talk where it was probably there will be no OER in 1, 2, 3 years. So what is left of what we define as open and what we think needs to be kept from this idea of openness when there are new, need new definitions? And maybe that would be something we could discuss for the next years and take it into account in the draft.
Definitely. I think it'll be difficult at this stage to get too provocative given the advanced nature of the declaration, but I think creating a space for that conversation to happen and for some of that definition to come through, I think that certainly could be possible. Did I see your hand next? If we can have the microphone here. I feel like an auctioneer, so please make it very clear if you're making a bid.
Right, thank you very much. I'd like to highlight the international cooperation, the awareness, raising awareness, and the stakeholders point. I think stakeholders could be many things and many people in different capacities, but I'd like to highlight the leadership and the mindsets of people in charge from personal experience, who have so many champions, and we tend to raise awareness for educators at that level and beyond, but it's really hard to convince a leader that there is a need for openness, open resources, or even openness at all levels. So I am, more into seeing more of that awareness at the top down instead of the bottom up that we have been seeing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a critical point. I've got the next hand at the back there.
Hi, I would like to restate the two comments of being more provocative, and maybe too late, as you already expressed, and it's okay. But if we don't say it now, we may regret it in 7 years. So let's try to do what we can.
Well, I think this is just a personal observation. Maybe one of the things we can try and do very quickly is to come up with some specific statements so that we can get a sense as to what that might look like integrated into the declaration. The text has been around for a while, so the opportunity has been there. But I think flowing from these conversations, if we can think of some simple ways in which that kind of, I'm reluctant to use the word provocation just because it sounds very confrontational, but let's think of aspirational and visionary ways of thinking rather than provocative. If you have concrete ideas, I think maybe try and share them as quickly as possible, and then we can see if there's a way to get those into the text. So I've got one more hand here. I also want to leave a little bit of time for my colleagues at the back also to give their reflections on what we've heard from you as well. So I'm going to be closing off shortly.
Thank you. I just thought that it would be helpful to me, when I read the declaration, to earlier find a differentiation between IP issues on the input of AI and on the output of AI, because in discussions we always jump between the input and the output, and those for OER are two very different fields for me. And I think what I'm somewhat worried is that we focus too little on how proprietary regulation can limit the output. When we lobby for more IP awareness, we always should focus on the input first.
Thank you. I think that is, to the extent that I understand, which I hope I do, I think that is an important distinction, and I think it is something that merits some consideration as we look at the final text of this. So I'm going to take a last hand here, and then I'm going to invite my colleagues to make some comments.
Thank you. In the spirit of asking for concrete things that could go into the declaration and the provocative, aspirational space, I think, picking up again on the comment that Ebba made about the changing nature of an OER, and an AI system could be an OER in the future. That is one of the conversations and presentations we had. And that requires us, I think, to then do that cross-open work. So I think there's the core of what we need is there in terms of the working across the opens. AI is the thing that is forcing us to join those up together, but I don't think we've really closed the loop on what that might mean in terms of what an OER is in the future as opposed to what it is today. And I think that future is within that 7-year time span. I think it's possibly even here today.
I'm glad you made the connection then between breaking out of the different silos of open, because I think that will be an essential aspect of that. So thank you so much, everyone, for those inputs so far. I just want to give my colleagues an opportunity to make some inputs. Let's start with you, Paul.
Yeah, just a point. So in the next panel, I'm going to be talking about diamond engagements around libraries. And we do have the UN librarian here, and we had a breakout. So if you want to hear how libraries are going to solve this problem with partners, I'll talk about it in the next panel.
Thank you so much. Vincent, any quick responses to what you've heard so far?
So I think the key point here is the is to do collaboration. So I think this is very key from what we are doing to make sure that the institutions, the agencies, we collaborate. I think through collaboration and sharing the experience in terms of OERs and these open licensed materials and with generative AI, I think it's very key for even the least developed countries can also catch up very easily, because countries in the global north are a bit advanced. So how can even the countries in the global south catch up with this? So I think collaboration is very key in this process.
Great, thank you so much. Jihan, any last comments and reflections?
Yeah, I mean, I think I liked what the lady from Georgia talked about in terms of, and that is something that we discussed earlier too, about networking and using the OER shares so that whatever the important research they produce is that reaches a broader audience who can benefit from that. And so I'd like to reiterate the research and the models, that these are shared and can be accessed, and that people are aware of where they would find them and how they would make best use of them. So that is one of the most important things. And the other thing is something that you talked about, is like what kind of advocacy do we need to follow so that we make sure that those who need our models most actually benefit from them. So I think that is...
Thank you. Jane.
Thank you so much. Just to flag that leadership and open mindset for OER is very crucial, and there's a need, an urgent need to raise new champions in this area. Thank you.
I want to piggyback on the provocation. And I want to just start by talking about, we talk about OER, but for what purpose? And there is a value, and I think we have to be, if we're very clear about the value, or if we agree on the value, then it's going to be very easy to understand where we should take risks and where we shouldn't take risks. So if you believe that equitable and inclusive learning environments, which OER helps create, will contribute to the creation of a more just society, like that's an outcome. And you can't be too provocative, whether you're working on policy, you're working on research, or you're working with international cooperation and trying to bring more synergy to this, the strength in numbers model. Keep the value first and foremost. And if that's the value, we don't stop until we get there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So you've heard a summary of the key issues that we thought emerged from the Congress in relation to the Dubai Declaration. Thank you so much, all of you, for the contributions you've made. There's some definite themes that have arisen from the inputs that you've made. I'm not going to summarize them all here, but we've got a record of them. And I think a final draft of the Dubai Declaration will be out shortly for review, and then hopefully that can be adopted and provides a program of action for UNESCO and for all of us moving forward. So thanks again, everyone, for your contributions to the session. And we've achieved the miracle of all miracles and actually finished the session ahead of time. So thank you very much.
Okay. So we now come on to our final panel of the afternoon before the closing pieces. And this panel, which will be moderated by Rosa Gonzalez from UNESCO Montevideo, brings together a number of different regional perspectives on emerging challenges. It features Maja Zelaznik, the former Minister of Education from Slovenia, who of course has been such an extraordinarily strong supporter of OER. And then it also has Patrick Walsh, who you've just seen on stage, Professor Peter Scott, giving the perspective from the Commonwealth of Learning, where he's CEO, Mona Larussi, giving the perspective from the Francophonie, and Sally Mabrook from IESCU, who's director of the Director General's office there. So let's have them all on stage and we'll get you seated and started. Please, Rosa. Are we missing anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll make sure you get one. Please. You should sit in the order as given. Yes. Yes, please. Thank you. What is the order? Maya, you're here. Okay. Sorry. And sorry, you're yes. So, if you come here. Except it's all we've got messed up, haven't we? Never mind. Does it really matter? There are exactly enough. Precisely. That's fine. I think that's good. Thank you.
Now it works. Good afternoon. Thank you, MC, for the introductions, and welcome you all to this last panel of this conference. And it's a panel that is very strategically placed after the conclusions that we heard about from the breakout sessions and before the plenary that will be presenting the Dubai Declaration and call for action. So this is maybe our last chance in the conference to hear mainly about challenges, but we heard already a lot of talk about challenges in the breakout sessions. I think in all the panels we heard, but there's so many challenges that we have ahead of us. But in this panel, the speakers will be identifying those challenges, but mainly focusing on the strategies to face those challenges. So this is really looking forward and already planning ahead after this Congress, what will be coming next and how the different organizations that are here are going to be implementing strategies to face these challenges. So Dr. Maja Zelaznik, you were already presented. We already know that she played such a key role in the organization of the Second World Congress, but also in introducing these topics in the UN, in the UNESCO governing bodies. So Maja, with your godmother role that you have played in this field, can you tell us what's coming and what's Slovenia's innovative approaches to face the future in this field?
Thank you for such a great introduction. I will try to focus not only on what is happening now and tomorrow, but also where we started, because there's always a start somewhere. And I think we will all notice and see how important it is that we are somehow, I say, stubborn and at the same time persistent on the ways which we want to fulfill. So thank you for this intro. I'm sure you remember what we've just talked 5 minutes ago in the previous panel, that how important it is that we are ambitious on our ways, from the recommendations, declarations, to, of course, the fulfillment of them. And this is something what I would like to show you, which happened from 2016 to 19, and then on with the dynamic coalition and with all what has been done by the champs of the OER around the world and especially where we want to somehow stress our role was in support and with the support of Slovenia from the state level to the institutes, research, and definitely in the education and scientific sector with different developments, research, and building the capacity. And this is how we looked some years ago in 2017 when we were hosting the Congress in Ljubljana, and much of these things which were written here are actually on the way not only to be fulfilled, but being even advanced and being challenged right now with these challenges you have been mentioning. And they are not only technology challenges, they are much more societal and definitely, I would say, future challenges which are coming on the table. But what we wanted to achieve with this look back, that actually all these lines being shown here are actually the lines which are still very, I would say, up to date. So the contents go on, and the contents just need to be strengthened with this modern way of life, technology bringing it into the OER, plus, of course, many challenges from geostrategical, political, to the changes of the world, which we need to encompass in giving new knowledges, new awarenesses, and new regulatory frameworks to mobilize all stakeholders. Why I'm here somehow encompassing what everything Slovenia did and should do and will do in that, because we've somehow defined the vision and the mission at that point, and it just goes on, and this is something what we all need. So, as I mentioned, persistence and being really strong on this way to show that all these champs around the world are really contributing to the family of UNESCO, and what we are here for, contributing to each child, to each teacher, to each principal, to each researcher in the world to be of better knowledge and accessible, transparent, inclusive knowledge. And this is something what it's really on the table every second, every minute around the world. And why can we show the case of Slovenia? Because we have worked after the Congress and even before on 3 major levels, combining them, creating the synergies between the education, higher education, and research and development. And I would like now ask my colleagues who have actually enabled us to be more and more advanced in this area to stand up, because they have really done their best job. Mitya Ermol from IRCAI, I'm sure you're here, or someone waving, sorry. And Gaspar from our Office of UNESCO, General Secretary, Boru Champel from Ministry of Education, and our distinguished guest today, the Lady Ambassador of Slovenia. And really, we appreciate that you are all of the supporters and co-developers of this. It's about people contributing and creating all this, and we should be proud on all of you and every one of you today being here. And why this Slovenian example can be moved forward to the global UN level and at the same time to the contribution through the dynamic coalition and good practice development, because we've settled all this, I would say, sort of holistic way of looking at what OER, no matter in which times, 2016 or 2025, is doing or will do. Because from the content development, from the application development, from the engagement, from the awarenesses and trainings, and definitely changing the culture, we've created a global, open, and really effective infrastructure. It's not only about the words, it's about the programs which are alive and which are really across the arena of our UNESCO family, from global monitoring program to My Machine, to leaderships in open education master program. We have not been leading all of these, definitely not, but maybe being also co-leaders and contributors to it. Why? Because at the national level and also internationally, we've decided to support this open world of OER in different mechanisms and not only on the political and policy level. These are the examples. Infrastructure X5 gone, you know that. It's about linguistic, it's about automatic ingestion, it's about many, many really working programs, fusions, pro-processing. Then we have this didactic design. We have lots of resources where we can enhance quality processing. This is just one illustration of it. Mentorship program. You know very well that these people are dedicated for free to create a coalition which can help each other and look in which all of the parts of the world it's truly working. And then My Machine under Belgium leadership, lots of STEM approaches, lots of STEM giving of the knowledge, sharing of the knowledge, and interaction within the knowledge through the chairs and through the people being dedicated, either as researchers, teachers, principals, and just volunteers from the general society. And last not the least, these are the major points where this knowledge and education comes together in many different ways and through very different approaches. And on UNITWIN, we do not need to talk a lot about it, but what is important here is that such mechanisms are now also used in the artificial intelligence. So what we are doing is that we are actually transforming the knowledge which we gained through the mechanisms and platforms from the previous projects and still ongoing projects to these new challenges which we talk all about in these 2 days at the 3rd OER Congress. And being here with all the colleagues from Nantes, from Uruguay, from South Africa, and so on. So it means that we really can create the coalition. And dynamic coalition means that it's not only organic and alive, it means that it goes forward with new contributions to this open education world. And why I think it's even more important that we are here in this region, that we are here with the 3rd Congress, because it's something what we need to translate back to do mechanisms. And this is again the illustration of Slovenia. What do we everything support out of the previous declaration recommendations, mechanism being designed and developed out of the policy, intentions, missions and visions. So from e-communities to practice, teachers and headmasters training supports, AI approaches being already embedded in all that. And what we are even more proud of is about, for example, 150 scenarios which are being prepared by the teachers in schools, and in next years even up to 300 for the reading literacy, for STEM, for using of financial literacy and things like that. So it's to do. It's not own. It's alive. It's really contributing to each other, and this is why I believed in that times, in those times in OER, and I still believe in now. So why it's even better momentum to address all this. Some people were saying, well, OER in classical sense, well, what do we do now with it? It's much, much way forward. Yes, but at the same time, geostrategically, politically, world has really, really changed. And all this is impacting education, science, knowledge development, through all these processes. There are schools today which are closed because of the war regions, because of decisions of some people in the world that they just can do whatever they want to do. It's not fair, it's not right. And therefore we need to come with the most important weapon of this world, and this is knowledge, this is education, this is creation of self-standing of people, youngsters, kids around the world. And this is why I believe in OER and its developments. And I also believe that we will be able to handle this really, really dynamic challenges we have on the table. This is one of the examples we've designed about rare diseases and situational awareness of that. So observe them, simulate them, advise about them, measure them, and what challenges turned on about definitely how to collect data in the right way with ethical, integrative, transparent approach. Green ones we know how to do it. Yellow ones, we are somewhere there. Red ones, we definitely don't know yet how to handle them. Moving forward, AI data processing, this is what we've talked through the days now. Yes, we do know how to do data security, for example, but do we know how to do the transparency, how to do the regulations and standards? All marked red are still really open to be discussed and to be fulfilled in the right way. And definitely with the interpretation, lots of red circles here. They are still emergent to be dealt with, to be consolidated, and to find a way out how to deal with them. So this is something what we need to work on, is just being shown through the illustrations and work we have done in Slovenia. But let me thank you, all of you, our coalition partners, our co-workers, our researchers, educators, everyone who has contributed that Slovenia's education and science can really be in advance way of tackling all these issues, because without UNESCO family and support of ADG to this area and the foundation who hosts us here, we could not really talk about it, we could not move it forward, and we could not bring it for the better life. And this is why we are here for the better life of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for this inspiring and powerful presentation. You said persistence, you said a global, open, transparent, effective infrastructure, and dynamic coalitions. And then, most important of all, you said that we need OER more than ever. So thank you very much for your presentation. We move now to our next speaker, Dr. Patrick Paul Walsh. He was already in the session on the results of the breakout sessions, and you spoke a little bit already about the role of libraries, and you will tell us more about partnerships between the public sector, private sector, and including also, of course, libraries. So the floor is yours. Please.
So I'm going to use, I was sitting down too much, so I'm going to stand up, and I have no slides though. So I just want to tell you, I'm trying to, the story of where this began, but, and I don't want to be too long-winded, but I'll go back to a time when I was in Trinity College Dublin, and I remember a librarian came into me, this is Niamh Brennan, and she's sitting there, and she was telling me about the beauties of DSpace, it's a digital library repository, and I don't know, I think we were talking about thesis. I was a dean, and she was thinking about getting all the master's thesis into this digital repository and why we should have it. But I said, I don't know about getting this through academic committees, but I can tell you, I'm an editor of the Journal of the Social and Statistical Inquiry Society of Ireland, which goes back to 1847, and I think this would be a good project for that, right? So we did. We digitalized. It was in 2005. We put it into the digital repository, and I discovered all the reasons, like the librarians, how they can archive, how they preserve the metadata, the licensing, how searchable and findable it is on the internet, all the ethical properties, how you can trace it, all this, right? So I saw DSpace in action, and fast forward, when I came into this role, Jeffrey Sachs this morning obviously was here, and I was with him forming SDSN back in 2012 in Rio +20. But eventually coming out of COVID, I decided I'd go into operations, and I became the Vice President for Education. But one of our flagships is the SDG Academy. So these are 50 MOOCs up in edX, but we have them on other platforms, the LMS platforms as well. So obviously being with Jeff, even though we've had millions of users and certified, the question is, how do we change them into billions of users, right? I mean, like, how make it so much more accessible, right? But of course, I suddenly said, the DSpace, that was a digit, that's just a PDF of particular papers, but actually we could have a folder of digital objects, and maybe this same philosophy could be there, right? And I guess what I was really, I'm a public sector person all my life. I believe in public goods, digital public goods. But I said I need a digital public highway or infrastructure that's common across the world, that's interoperable, that's easy to share OER, licensed in a public way. Every aspect of it can be controlled by the public sector. And then I said, DSpace. Every library in the world, not every library, but up to 500,000 have. And if we actually could harmonize the metadata and the licensing, and even now the way we'd actually use AI, etc., this is a great chance to get OER anywhere in the world. Okay? So coming into the Transforming Education Summit, led by Ireland, Ghana and Greece, we put together a panel in the pre-tests and in the Tests and Solutions Day, and we put forward this idea of the public, meaning the members of the states, and let's call us the privates, but we're also public, we're librarians and we're academics and teachers and so on. And I really got convinced that I could get into parliamentary libraries for science policy interface, I could get into schools, I could get into university libraries of universities. I mean, this was the highway. This is something we could make work. So as a result of the Solutions Day, we did formalize this as an SDG partnership under a partnership agreement between SDSN and UNESCO to try and build this partnership to implement the OER recommendation. And I guess this feeds in two ways. One is we actually just want to do handbooks or playbooks for governments so they understand what you could actually do, right? And that's important, but also to do demos, to say what we could do, right? Just because obviously we can't give from K-12 to university to lifelong learning in all languages of the world and all concepts. We can't do that. But what we can do is just show governments what could be done using libraries, right? And that's basically the story here, right? And I'll just go back just to tell you, when civil society, and in some ways this is what we are, academics, when civil society, we're non-governmental in that sense, when there was a consultation in Nairobi for the Pact for the Future, there was this aspect about digital assets and training and upskilling, etc. And it was all about, citizens or young people, should be upskilled in the using of technology and applications and the use of AI. And the thing that came back to me as a very old-fashioned public servant, as I said, I think the bureaucratic side of government or the public service, you should have your own in-house capabilities, your own platforms, your own innovators in AI, your own ability to license that AI. In other words, have your own, this digital transformation that's happening, the capacity inside government has to be as strong or even better than you're seeing in the likes of Google and others. Right? That was my philosophy, right? So at this consultation, we led this sort of idea, and you'll see in the Global Digital Compact that investing in digital public goods, it's also about investing in digital public infrastructures and the training of public servants to be capable of actually running this, right? Because if you want a digital public good and you want to share it around the world, you have to, in a sense, keep it in the public sphere. That's the philosophy, right? Now, it doesn't mean you can't partner with the private sector. That's not the issue, because obviously we want it interoperable with LMSs. Obviously, we want to bring in AI, but hopefully in a way that it's open source and it's properly licensed in a way and it doesn't actually block or commercialize any of the OER at any stage of its use and dissemination. But the idea is to keep it in-house in the public sphere. And this project, so anyone who wants to provide content, anyone who wants to use the content, or you're techie, or we have Cable Green here for Creative Commons who's been with us all the way. Anyone who's interested in that, we'd invite into this partnership, right? But the idea is that, can we just unite this community of practice, which is librarians, who are extremely skillful at all the issues that we've talked about, and build under sustainability this community of practice and this partnership, which will hopefully the idea, the funding will come from state because they want the playbooks, but also the funding will actually come from private entities who actually want to see this type of material and the ability to add value to it, or to bring it into LMSs for training or certification. We don't care, right? But at the same time, this is our resource. It's a public resource. It's licensed by us. It's in our public infrastructures, and it's up to us to be able to make it as interoperable and shareable across all libraries of the world as possible. So that's the basic idea, and this is what we talked about in the breakout group this morning. But this is we've signed the MOU. We have the partnership, and we're ready to go. And people are invited to join us, and the librarians are here. We have the UN librarian who's extremely supportive as well. Right? And then the last thing I must mention, because it didn't come up enough, right, is the NACWIDI. There's a really beautiful network in librarians called Knowledge Equity. And what they're concerned about is that somebody in Uganda or anywhere in the world should be able to supply indigenous knowledge, or if you want to digitalize knowledge, we should be in a global knowledge commons that's public, run by public infrastructures. You should be able to supply your knowledge into that. There should be no barriers to that. So it's not like we know everything, there's OER, we want to distribute and get teachers trained. That's not life. We're in transformations. We're trying to get a vision of the future which is nothing like the past. We're using technologies that's nothing like the past. We have to be open and allow others with knowledge to actually come with us, right? So no matter where you are in the world, if you're innovating, if you've got ideas, you should be able to supply for free your knowledge into the folders, into your local library, disseminate it and have people using it, etc. Okay, so that's just the simple. I know there's lots of stories you'll ask, well, what about quality assurance? We're academics, we can do that. Libraries, they know how to have information integrity. They know exactly how to archive and how to do this sort of thing. So there's lots of questions, but I'm putting forward this as one of the major solutions to actually drive this forward. But I guess the big thing I'm saying is keep it in the public sphere.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for sharing this very exciting partnership and for reminding us of the key role that libraries can play and how they can make OER accessible everywhere in the world. So now we're going to move to our next speakers, who will be sharing with us same thinking, challenges ahead of us, but from different regional perspectives. So Mona will be next. And Mona Larousse will be speaking on behalf of the Organisation de la Francophonie. So Mona, the floor is yours.
Okay. Bonjour. I'll be... Like, I know that you just ate, so it's a bit way now. So we'll start with a small question now. Is there anyone amongst you who has used an educative resource? You can just raise a right hand or a hand for anyone who has used educative resources. Is there anyone amongst you who has created educative resources? Very good. We'll start now. What I'm going to show you are maybe things that you already know, because I'm almost at the end. Because there are so many questions that have been asked already, but we're going to try to talk about it quickly. We are all convinced on all those who have created the open educative resources that the OER are all educated and being able to eliminate all of the problems and to be able to attend all of the solutions for number 4 and to be able to give the possibility to people who are not don't have the possibility to be in big university and have access to resources. And it's also a possibility to modernize schools and have active participation in trainings. And so that's the reason why we're here today. but I am a director of an institute in Senegal, and in Africa I work a lot with all countries, and unfortunately we have the problem of access to the internet, access to the resources, and we have open education resources sometimes in the media to watch. And so if you know that internet connection costs 15 euros to watch 10 megabytes, so you know that is not a resource that is very accessible. So when we talk about an infrastructural problem, it means that we have not only a problem with access, but also a problem of watching. And we also have a problem about the resources produced. Are they really open? Can I use them? In most of the time, sometimes saying everything that's on the internet can be used. We just take an image or take a piece of an image. Is that really it? What are the rights? We've really spoken about copyright in the past few days, and I have a word which says I have a public good. And there is also a question that has been asked by so many. The educative resources are in two main languages, in English and French, Spanish, Chinese, a little bit in other languages, and also in Arabic as well. The data and the educative resources also has a problem of quality. It's not all the resources found that are open that have the same quality. So what are the resources that I'm going to use in terms of quality? The resources found on the internet don't have the same clarity. So what is the main point which permits me to be able to use it? It's not all the resources as well that are described with what it takes so that I can be able to find it. And also with the OER, if I have to use it in the framework of my teaching.
Des pays. Après, le dernier point que je vais évoquer en termes de défis.
Sorry, the OER it's necessary to have an engagement because it's necessary for the teaching method, so to have the point. So does the teacher have the minimum requirements to be able to get this resource and be able to use it? So this morning and several days, this subject has been mentioned, the fact that so many students are more advanced than teachers in the digital aspect. And so the first point, which is a problem on connection, so unfortunately it does exist. There are some resources on open educations who are available on private platforms. So if it's something open, I should be able to access to it openly without so many requirements. And there is also the open educative resources that should be able to be used with all the strategies of the like updates, like what we mentioned, like what we spoke about on the other side yesterday, and the mentality as well. We should also speak about the resources and the platforms that are being used. There should also be a partnership, a public partnership at a very high level with the technology institutions, ministries, everyone, to be able to reach the goals and to work with open standards and not have closed resources. To be able to adapt in the mode of sharing as well, and especially when we work in OER, not to forget to protect personal data of all users, especially our students, with what we're doing with their resources, and always keeping in mind all the knowledge used. On the second part, about the license, like we have spoken about in the last 2 days, we're working especially on the use of open license and the educative resources on gender equality. And so in this platform, we're using all the developed resources developed by us or others. We leave them all open. And so after there is also a point on the the license is not like interpreted in the same way in all countries. So the license in this country, it might not be the same thing in another country. So we should have one that should permit us to be able to understand and participate in the same license. So we should be able to reinforce and also implement all the licenses that can be used as it should be. And of course, the fiscal and monetary part, where the public financing can be able to create content and be citations, like these are this contents that has been created by the public sector and can be used in such manners. And should also call upon universities that are here. Generally, when we move from one stage to another, we get articles very rarely. We're able to get on articles produced by students. So we should be able to access particularly all the resources that we produce. And on the issue dominant and the problems on gender equality and criminality, we have major programs, and we're working on African programs. And when I'm talking about being coded, we're talking about the means at which from a 0 level it should move to a high level where the languages can be used at national levels like Wolof, Polar. And we have textbooks as well, which are written in national languages. And we should also have centralized methods put in place so that it can be used for the duplication of the resources. And we should also have platforms. We should also have platforms that can be available for resources, not to be redeveloped, but to be reused. I take the example of mathematic resources. If we describe correctly this resource, and I am in a university, I'm not forced to redevelop it. I can just take it and then just make it better. And we should be able to also put in place a platform where people can participate. And for the last point, where I talk about the participation of teachers and also having suggestions, we have included in all the framework and workshops in all the classrooms, and we have trained the teachers all the information required on OER. Because it's good to have like a pedagogic resource. It's still a resource which belongs to the person who uses it. But if the teacher is not trained on how to use it, he will not be able to access it and use it as it should be. It will just be like a file opened in any textbook, so you should be able to master how to use it. And we also created a practical community on this, where we made available all the information digitally, and and I also spoke earlier about accessible resources. And this is what permits everyone with disabilities to be able to access all of the resources. So we also offer the possibilities of having resources for people who are not connected on the internet to be able to have access to the information. And all those who also are offline can also be able to access the resources and modify it. I'm now on my last slide. In conclusion, I think that the OER should be easily accessible and freely openly accessible for everyone in the world, and that the context should be made clear, meaning that we shouldn't impose the resources, and that it should be something of free will. And following and confirming with the culture of everyone and their needs. Thank you.
Mona, pour cette présentation si bien structurée et pour nous avoir donner votre vision sur ces 4
your vision on the 4 challenges.
Move on, and we will hear another regional perspective. This time it will be with Dr. Sally Mabrouk. She's the director of the DG office of ISESCO. So she will be giving us the perspective of the Islamic World Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization.
Thanks a lot for giving us the opportunity to share the perspective of our state members, the 54 state members that we are presenting in our organization, ISESCO, in this great contest with great minds who are very committed to this topic and to a better future for our young people using the open resources for education. Actually, to start the topic, how we see or how can we work with our state members in this specific point is the vision of ISESCO towards this. How we see it. We see it in a very holistic perspective. We don't see it from technical perspective. We see it how can this support creating a better future for our young people, because youth at the vision of ISESCO is the core of our vision. So basically, as the scope of ISESCO covers many aspects, starting from education, culture, science, and also human development, and of course innovation and research, we focus a lot on the utilization and the efficiency of the open resources, how it could support not only our educational system, but it could provide added value for young people whenever they are students or even as lifelong learners, because the education will not only stop once they will leave schools or universities, but also with the massive transformation that we are seeing in the marketplace, self-development became a necessity because the complete transformation for the marketplace, it could totally change within 5 years. So we have to ensure also that we are embedding this in our education system, not because it's very important to give them certification or to give them comprehensive or well-rounded educational system, but this became a very important tool for them to continue their lifelong learning throughout their career. Because as we can see right now, that the majority of creative industries that we usually occupied by young people, it's totally transforming within the coming 3-4 years. So if they will not be able to upgrade their capabilities and skills, they will totally be left out without any jobs. So it's no longer seen as part of the educational system or to complete the curriculum of universities, but even a personal tool that people they need to master. So for this vision, we focused mainly on reducing the barrier to the access of the open educational resources. And in order to be able to do this, actually we adapted the majority of the recommendation that were discussed throughout the 2 days at this conference. Number one is building capability. Building capability, especially with educators, because they need to be the tutor and mentor for our young people from now. So they will educate them how to access this, how to use it in the best way possible, and how can you continue doing this by your own throughout your career. For this specific initiative, actually, our priority was focusing on a couple of countries, but with the current situation, we became mainly focusing on the countries who are facing conflicts and problems, because they are the most needed countries to be supported. Not only in conflicts, but also the countries who are terribly affected by climate change problems, because also education system is too much interrupted, and this is seriously affecting the continuation of education. Then we move to the research, because one of the things that we talked about throughout the last 2 days is the majority of educational system or the policies that are developed in our region not based on real research from the community, not from real cases relevant to our region. So at ISASCO we have the FUMI, which is the Federation of Universities at the Islamic countries. And within this federation, we have more than 450 universities. So we created a network among them focusing on the open resources for education. So we made sure that all the development done in such important sector to be developed on real research coming from this region, not only adapted from outside of the region. Number 3 was the collaboration between the private and the government organization, especially the private sector and the startups in technology, because we knew that they are the real accelerators that will make the required change in with the government in terms of resources, tools, and also facilitate the access for young people either in their study or while they are working either in their startups or any corporate organization. The last one, which is the most important, was the policies. How we can really develop policies that reflects the expectations of young people at our region. And for this, we just finished our ministerial meeting for education that was at Muscat in October, and the majority of items included at the declaration that was issued by the end of this ministerial meeting was mainly focusing on the digital access and the digital content. Now, how can we frame the methodology that could enable our governments to develop relevant policies that could really respond to the changing dynamics of our region. However, as Professor Patrick mentioned, he focused a lot on librarian, but in our region and in our experience and our perspective, actually, we are focusing a lot on translation because, as Professor Mona mentioned, for example, in Africa only, we have more than 50 national languages. And if our objective is mainly reducing the barriers for open sources, this is our priority in our region to ensure that it's not only the good education, maybe that I will have a high quality of education, but if they don't have and it does not address our young people with their national languages, I cannot force them to adapt to a certain, because some countries, they don't have electricity, they don't have any access. So we have to ensure that we are providing them with the maximum facilitation in terms of presenting this with their, I'm not saying with all national languages, but the maximum of languages that could be very well understood, because this is the main challenge at our region. So I wanted just to summarize what is very, I know that throughout the two days, everything was discussed in details, but I just wanted to focus on the real challenges that we are facing in our region, because even if we will be able to gather all the quality education and all the quality resources and also the credible, because also the selection here is very important, because with this massive open data that we have to be very selective what we are presenting to our young people. That took us to something very important, because translation before, a couple of years back, was such an impossible dream. But with the revolution of AI, this actually gave us hope. So we know that one of the main challenges at our region is the access for digital services. But now it became an opportunity, not only an obstacle, if we will be able to collaborate among our partners and our governments. We will be able to give hope for people that never had hope to have any access for the future. So also, that's why we adapted the cause of AI very seriously. And lately, we also declared Riyadh Charter for AI, because ethical AI is something that is extremely important for us, because if we are talking about translation, we are not talking about literal translation. We are talking about contextual translation, because the outcome of this open sources is to enable our young people to have real job opportunities. So what is the point of just giving them resources that is totally far from their region, from their problems, from their context, that will never enable them to find a real solution, because they were totally all the time exposed for something that is not relevant to what they have. So I just wanted to present our perspective at the Islamic countries. And I would like, before I close this, I would like to thank UNESCO to gather to make this happen, the third Congress. And of course, I would like to congratulate UAE for hosting such important Congress, and especially the organization of Mohammed bin Rashid Foundation for taking the lead in our region and trying to support this very important topic to us at the region.
Thank you, Sally, for sharing this UNESCO strategy with us and this particular focus on translation. So now, last but not least, we're going to hear Professor Peter Scott, and he's going to share with us the perspectives of the Commonwealth of Learning. And you have a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, this should be easier for the clicker.
Donc ça doit être facile pour... je voulais... je m'attendais à ça. Je voulais vous présenter quelque chose d'amusant à la fin de cette session. Et comme j'étais le président du Commonwealth, du congrès de Commonwealth, qui a déjà tenu une assemblée en octobre dernier, et c'est ce que j'ai présenté dans ce congrès, et je crois que c'est un peu amusant de présenter la même présentation dans cette fin de session. Donc j'ai suggéré dans le contexte d'avoir 56 gouvernements qui représentent les pays de l'OCDE et aussi avec des pays de l'Afrique aussi. Et je crois que la Grande-Bretagne avait un grand rôle aussi dans ce congrès. Et il y a bien aussi des francophones des pays francophones qui nous ont joint son congrès. Et le système d'éducation ça continue à changer, et le développement dont a été témoin ce système n'a jamais été à une situation mauvaise, puisque le progrès a touché les étudiants et les enseignants, et aussi les méthodes traditionnelles nous indiquent qu'il faut changer ces méthodes, alors que le chemin et la scène est énormément numéralisé jusqu'à présent. Donc, ce qu'il faut joindre les efforts pour que la scène soit apte à être opérée de cette façon, et de
feature for us. And then also Whilst I do not believe that we'll be able to synchronize the world's tax systems, I do believe we are able at this time, which is an incredibly exciting time, to look at integrating and common voice speaking for some of the critical quality assurance processes and support processes and policy processes that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. I believe that time is right, and I'm hugely excited the UNESCO is here in this third Congress, picking up the very heavy baton of open education resources, which is a key tool that we've been using for the last 36 years. And it needs some heavy hitting, and it needs to happen now. And I'll flip through a few other pieces very, very quickly, given that we're late in the day, and I want to keep it down to 6 minutes, if possible. If you don't know who the Commonwealth of Learning is, 56 governments, we are aim to be a thought leader and catalyst. Catalyst in this context means we focus on open learning, for which OER is a critical instrument. It's an instrument to deliver an outcome. That outcome is equity. That's the reason you do it. And you start with disadvantage. If you start with the elite system and work backwards, you will not reach the disadvantage. You have to start by prioritizing the disadvantage and make that work. We're a relatively small team of advisors, and on average, of the 56 each year, we work in about 30 of those countries, driving that change. And we focus on collaborative work. OER, for us, is about collaboration. It's not about the resource. It's about getting educators to collaborate and share deliberately. Doing an act of deliberate sharing brings communities together. Life is a team game. Learning must be a team game. Making the team play together is the trick, and that's what this does. We've been doing it for 36 years, so over that time you would expect us to have done and fallen into a good pattern of creating things. We do something like 20 government policies a year for our governments. And we train a couple of thousand officials in the governments, bureaucrats, regulators, in order to make them be able to execute on the policies that we're working with them on. And then beneath them, they govern institutions, and there are thousands of institutions in the Commonwealth. There are 1,000 universities in India alone, of which 18 are open universities, and those 18 open universities are responsible for 1 in 10 tertiary learners in that country, which, given the size of the country, is a lot of people. So working with those sorts of institutions, and we tend to prioritize the OUs first, we then reach to getting their staff to be having their capacity raised to do that work too. And right at the bottom is something we haven't talked a lot about in this event, and that's lifelong learning. Lifelong learners are outside the system of formal education, and there is a bridge to those. So quick provocation, and I'll just skim through these slides, because these are the slides I didn't create for you, but this is where we're trying to tell government this is what you need to do, which is what your communication should be about. Start with disadvantaged. You can't reach women and girls. We reach to a lot of women and girls, disproportionately overrepresented in the disadvantaged, unless you reach them via the communities in lifetime learning. You can't reach disaffected boys unless you speak in their language of disaffection. And all of those policies have to be something that is reaching outside and around the conventional system. The world is seriously under-digitalized. This is us saying to our heads of government, technology is ready now to help us make a step change in that focus on digitalization, but unless you do it, and that puts some of the things you conventionally do in peril, you will fail. When you're reaching to school, you have to change the nature of schooling. Conventional schooling incrementally is not working for the disadvantaged. Open schooling works really well. India has one of the world's largest open schooling systems. Very good models for creating new pipelines into learning for the disadvantaged. Don't forget skill. If you're creating resources that are not described in the language of skill, you will fail to achieve major change with those resources. So where you're not talking skill, you're not talking the language that learners need for employers and to create those most effectively. Also, you need to talk credit. whether it's in the vocational landscape or the tertiary landscape, credit is the language of the businesses that are formal institutions. So if you're not talking skill in the way you describe your resources and credit in the way you structure your resources, you will not achieve the significant change you need in the 7 years of this description that is going to help to change and lift this fantastic heavy weight that we all care about to change our landscape. Now is the time to make those changes. The world is ripe for that. AI is definitely in there in the mix. It's not the most interesting thing, but it's quite an interesting thing that will help us make that change. The most interesting things are the things that we can do to make that matter. I just thought it'd be fun to show you what I told my governments in my region, which is just 56 countries trying to do good. And we've been doing it for a little while, and I'm super excited to be at the 3rd Congress where we can start to lift that weight and make a significant change. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Peter, for this inspiring talk. You said we did a common voice. OER is about collaboration, deliberate sharing, and life is a team game. So I really like that. Thank you very much. We ran out of time, but I would feel bad if I did not open the floor for at least one comment, question from the public, one burning issue, if anybody wants to address a comment or a question to our right speakers. If it's not the case, it's okay as well. But, oh yeah, there we have one.
I will switch into French if there is no problem. Thank you. So, j'ai
عذرا يمكن نسمع الترجمة.
éducative libre. Perspectives, des recommandations, etc. Je reviens pour la question et je veux venir à Madame Orest parce que j'ai les mêmes commentaires. En fait, l'AUF et pour l'ICESCO, il y a un grand travail aussi qui se fait au niveau de l'éducation. We do have a lot of efforts. I was awaiting to have a feedback from ICESCO and the Federation of the universities in the UK. And if you look on the internet and you just and you mention AI and OER, there's a lot of resources. There are programs there are programs launched by UNESCO and that has been shared and within the network. There are other work with the Association of Universities, and we have applied the universities belonging to 127 universities, which is the program of development of skills for open education, and many of these projects were accredited already. These are mega projects. I think this is important that because we need to communicate. We say that everything is using cable green, but does everyone knows about it?
I know UNESCO and that in 2019 we have discussed Marrakesh, and we decided so there is a lot of talks about changes and about the projects, but we are not all aware of them, and so you have as well for the four referentials you have, and there are as well a lot of projects underway or the pipeline. We need to build on what has been going on or what's being done so far in order to advance and to reach a point where we can collaborate within the networks and link the networks together. Do you mind just going into into the side to just reply to the question? What is your questions? This is as well a question for Dr. Walsh. There are universities that have their spaces with open archives and articles and resources, but they don't communicate with each other, so they don't talk to each other. So this is my observations. So the question is for Sally and Mona. First, the question for Mona. Thank you for your merci
for posing this very important comment, which is actually our existence here on this platform is a commitment for collaboration between all organizations. Yes, the majority of organizations are working very hard, and I totally agree with you that we need more and more and more collaboration and working together and talking with one voice because the end user are the same. So unfortunately, some organizations, they were working before in silos, but we know very sure that the leadership in all those organizations are now having the great vision of working collaboratively, because the dynamics even are changing. The expectations of our young people are getting higher and higher, so we don't have the luxury to not work together. We are working closely with our state members. For example, yesterday, the 2 days before this conference, we already were so much engaged with UNDP and also Mohammed bin Rashid Foundation for a very similar topic, which is also the collaboration for skills. And we participated with them throughout the last year in this project. And of course, this is not enough, and we are looking forward to have more unified platforms for communicating and raising awareness to our stakeholders.
Thank you, Sally. So, Mona, immediate.
Ok. Juste une petite mise à jour, Khalid.
I'm not IAF. Je suis à l'OIF, which is the international organization for the francophone countries. Thank you for the UNESCO, for Foundation Mohammed bin Rashid, for being all together on the same roof, and to have and to have given that importance to the obstacles and to the challenges and we are all implicated and which is give us legitimacy to be able to engage all together in tackling these problems. The quality is very important. Without quality and high quality, we cannot move forward. But together, yes, and the quality for the educational resources is also important for us to work on and to be able to use them. So we close with this. We need to finish and move to the next session. Thank you all for your good listening.
Well deserved. So enjoy and then come back in half an hour for the closing ceremony and the discussion of the declaration. now. We're just about to begin. Welcome back, everybody. Nice to see you all here. And so now we come to the last elements in this two-day meeting. First, I'm going to ask Dr. Taufik Jelassi to join me on stage to talk about the Dubai Declaration. Dr. Jelassi, the stage is yours.
Distinguished delegates, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to each one of you. As we convene for this almost final plenary session, we stand at a moment that will define our shared mission and the roadmap going forward, with the overall goal that we have discussed yesterday and today, how to promote inclusive, accessible, and equitable education for all worldwide. I would like to say a few words about the Dubai call for action on open educational resources. I trust that you have all by now received an email from my colleague Zainab with an attachment, which is the current advanced draft of the Dubai call for action. Of course, we would like to endorse this call for action, which is not just a document. It is a powerful blueprint for the future. And as it is called, it is a call for action to capture our collective experience, expertise, and aspiration to leverage OER in a truly transformative way. There are always these two questions. Through OER, are we transforming lives of teachers and learners? Are we making educators more successful through what we offer them? So it's not here just to fulfill a need or to respond to a challenge. I think the question of how can we make them more successful through what we offer them? It's a second level thinking. It's a second level goal. I think we should aspire to that. And this call of action, as I said, reflects our shared vision to harness the full potential of OER to create the quality education that Jeffrey Sachs so eloquently talked about this morning. I think he gave a vibrant call for action himself. And he mentioned to us the hundreds of millions of pupils left out of school, certainly the hundreds of millions of pupils who drop out of school. And this is a major challenge to us in this 21st century. Some of these pupils and kids cannot go to school because they don't have a school nearby. But through OER, the school goes to them, wherever they are. So I think this is very important. And in today's advanced digital world, in the sessions, I heard many of you talking about the challenge of artificial intelligence and generative AI. It is a challenge. It is, I would say, a double-edged sword. It offers us a new beginning for OER, but also there are some challenges, whether it is from intellectual property rights, whether it is from licensing and other legal matters. We need to tackle them. And we heard from some testimonies, including from Creative Commons yesterday afternoon, that these are some important questions on which this partner of ours is currently working, and other partners and other stakeholders have been trying to tackle this issue. There is also the point about how can OER contribute to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And here we know not only SDG 4, how to offer quality education, but also SDGs related to partnerships, and also SDG related to gender equality. And at the end of the day, how to democratize education as not to leave anyone out of this journey, not to leave nations, communities behind. The UNESCO 2019 recommendation on OER clearly needs to be revisited. At UNESCO, we acknowledge that. We worked on it more than 8 years ago. It was adopted 5 years ago by our 194 member states. But I think it is now high time to say, with the changes that have happened since, not only technological, but also in terms of what education should be about. Recall the UN Transforming Education Summit of 1.5 years ago. So with that transformative educational paradigm, what does UNESCO recommendation need to embrace? And this Congress has been a major input to us from the UNESCO delegation to listen to your inputs, to reflect on the findings of the breakout sessions, and these are important contributions for us to update in a way, enhance, enrich this OER recommendation and present it to our member states. I would like also to underscore the consultative process that did happen before we put together the Dubai Declaration. And this consultative process has started last May with Africa Regional Consultation, which took place at the e-Learning Africa event. Then we followed by 5 other regional consultations in the Caribbean region, in Asia and Pacific, in Europe and North America, in Latin America, and the final consultation took place in the Arab States region. These consultations involved more than 900 participants. Some are individuals, many are institutional, representing over 130 countries. Our analysis of the inputs we received revealed the following 5 priority areas. Number 1, capacity building. Number 2, international cooperation. Number 3, policy development. Number 4, inclusive access. And number 5, sustainability. These priority areas do reinforce the pillars of the UNESCO 2019 recommendation on OER and clearly shows us the priorities that we need to work on and the challenges that we need to respond to going forward. A bit of detail on the consultations. 40% of the replies came from Europe and North America. 15% of the replies came from Africa and Latin America. The majority of the responses, 69%, were from individuals, which indicates a strong personal interest to advance OER. So I think, as you can see, the consultation process not only was global, it was open, and we tried to bring in all key stakeholders concerned by OER. Looking forward, the Dubai call for action on OER will stand as a testament to our collective dedication to advancing education for sustainable development. It will serve as a guiding light for future OER initiatives and policies. It will encourage member states and stakeholders to embrace OER as a cornerstone of national educational systems and as a catalyst for sustainable change. Through this declaration, we also renew our commitment to using OER to build an educational system where knowledge is freely accessible, adaptable, and resilient. To conclude, let me reaffirm our dedication to fostering a culture of openness and collaboration in education. The Dubai Call for Action on OER will serve our commitment to creating equitable learning environment and ensuring that every learner in this digital age not only can evolve but can thrive. The future of education depends on this shared commitment. Together we can build a truly open, accessible, and collaborative educational landscape for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that inspiring speech. And congratulations to all for working so very hard over the last 2 days. From this vantage point, I've observed just how hard everyone has worked. It's been quite amazing. Now we come to the closing ceremony, and I would like to invite His Excellency Jamal bin Warab, CEO of the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Foundation, to address the conference.
السيدات والسادة.
Ladies and gentlemen, our dear attendees, distinguished guests, I am so honored to welcome you to this special meeting to celebrate the science, knowledge, and creativity and the honor group of brilliant minds who made great contributions to enriching humanities and also eliminating its paths and left their mark in these fields, transcending the limits of possible towards new horizons to plant also the seeds of the future, and also to weave the fabric of our civilization with their aims and also with their armies in order to provide equality between the individuals wherever they are. And this platform that has actually produced with and came out with some recommendations and also some initiatives, important initiatives that we will work together over its implementation and activation and also the awareness of it in the next phase. Allow me, everyone, to express my appreciation for the UNESCO organization over this conference that has actually held for the first time in the Arabic region and hosted by the United Arab Emirates in order to be an initiative, a way to be for a sustainable work and also for a cooperation, international cooperation that aims to educate the human and people in everywhere and also to provide an OER to enable him and empower him to continue his urban process and development and also to be an active helper in building a beautiful future for everyone. And there is no doubt that such a conference for the UNESCO World Conference that came out with the Knowledge Summit for the year 2024 has a great message that actually assesses for the cooperation between different organizations and also for the group work in order to speed the wheel of work and also to to facilitate the idea of progress in different communities. And from this prospect, and also between the cooperation between the UNESCO and also Mohammed bin Rashid Foundation, we have a great idea that with a great vision that based on building a world that with equal education opportunities for everyone, and also the cooperation between the foundation and also the UNESCO and the organization of this conference is just a mere evidence for this point, as education is the main bone and the backbone of a building community, and also for the development and its wellness. At the end, I just wanted to thank UNESCO and all the appreciation for its vision and also for its message and enhancing the idea of the education. And I just wanted to say that since the year of 2014, I was speaking about the idea of OER, and I actually built a great platform which is called DDL. And this platform was at the very beginning does not has no more than 230 books. About now it contains about 10 million material. It's scientific material that's actually free for everyone and available for everyone and for every researcher, students, and everywhere in the world. And this effort I just provided as a gift from the United Arab Emirates to UNESCO and everyone in the world, for everyone who just want to have a great knowledge and also for research for free. As the freedom of education and the free education, or even the first and second and third Congress has actually affected the world. And I actually in annually I participate in the Frankfurt for books, but I do not know or see any banners that contain open material. But now when you go to the Frankfurt exhibition, which is the largest one, we can find that most of the publication homes and houses has some banners of the OER, which means that this is your effort, and this is the UNESCO effort that has actually started. And the first Congress and the second one and the third one that accepts that's hosted here by Dubai, and all of these things has actually affected all the closed material and the closed data, and now it turns to be and open educational resources. And this is thanks for your effort, and this is why I just wanted to thank the UNESCO and also all the appreciation for you and for the organization itself for your best efforts. And when it comes for the fourth edition or fourth session of this Congress, we will have more developed achievements and also better efforts to help the education and the science and everywhere. And we all hope that this Congress can be a new step for better cooperation that actually meets the needs and the requirements of our people. And thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.
And look at that, precisely on time. We come to the end, and it's just my pleasant duty to call on Dr. Jelassi to give the closing remarks for the conference. Thank you.
I am back for one last time. And I'm still Tawfiq Jelassi. So, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, participants, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as the third UNESCO World OER Congress draws to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the remarkable journey that we have shared. These past 2 days have not only been a platform for exchanging knowledge, it has been a launch pad for a collective action, for a commitment to make OER a powerful catalyst for accessible, inclusive, and high-quality education across the world. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Her Highness Sheikha Latifa bint Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who graced us with her presence yesterday and so kindly inaugurated our Congress with a very inspiring speech. I would like also to thank the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Foundation and its CEO, His Excellency Jamal bin Huwairib, for the gracious support that made this gathering possible. I would like also to thank the many partners of UNESCO present here. I won't name each one of them because I risk forgetting one or two, but let me mention a third partner to this event. So it was UNESCO, it was the foundation, and it was the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network and its president, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. I would like also to thank the UNESCO team, coordinated by my colleague Zainab, for their tireless efforts to make this event possible. And to be complete, I would like to thank each one of you, the participants, who traveled sometimes the world. I chat with many of you, and some said I traveled 15 or 16 hours to arrive in Dubai, sometimes with 2 or more stops on the way. Your engagement, your presence, your contributions have been invaluable, and you have played a key role to advance our shared vision. A world of education that is open, that is accessible, that is inclusive, that is equitable for all. This Congress has brought together inspiring examples from more than 30 countries, with each example demonstrating the transformative power of OER. From community-based initiatives to national programs, these stories remind us of the potential of OER to foster equitable education. These stories reflect on how collaboration can lead to meaningful, positive change, reminding us that equitable education is within reach through our joint efforts. I mentioned earlier our open global consultation process, which has led to the large number of contributions being at the core of the Dubai call for action. And on this point, I would like to say that we did send you the declaration, and we would like, if possible, before we close, that we endorse together the Dubai call for action, with your permission, of course. This will reinforce that we are not alone in this mission. We stand together, united by a shared purpose. It's a matter of purpose, it's a matter of mission. The Dubai call for action encapsulates the spirit of collaboration and partnership. And it is not an endpoint in itself. It is a beginning. And that's why we call it a call for action. We recognize the significance of the Global Digital Compact and of the Declaration for Future Generations that were adopted at the United Nations headquarters last September. We recognize that these address critical areas such as sustainable development, international peace and security, and the integration of science and technology in governance. In our discussions here, the Global Digital Compact outlines a commitment for the international regulation of AI, ensuring that technological advances benefit all while addressing issues like the digital divide and cybersecurity. These topics are especially relevant for OER, as equitable access to technology is crucial for the effective distribution and utilization of educational resources globally. The Global Digital Compact further underscores our responsibility to ensure that digital technologies, including OER, are harnessed to promote inclusive and equitable access to quality education. By fostering collaboration among governments, civil society, the private sector, and international organizations, the Pact for the Future provides a framework for building digital capacities and addressing disparities in accessing educational resources. I would like here to quote the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, who highlighted that the Pact for the Future opens new pathways for cooperation and action that address global challenges, making it imperative for stakeholders in education to engage with these frameworks. Together, we can work towards a future where quality education is recognized as a fundamental right for all, ensuring that every learner benefits from the opportunities that OER and digital technologies provide today. Our challenge now is to move from the commitment to the concrete action, ensuring that OER becomes an integral part of educational systems worldwide. As of now, Zainab told me that we have about 80 UNESCO member states that have integrated OER into their national educational system. That is about 45% of the 194 member states of UNESCO. So we still have quite a long way to go. We also must keep our efforts aligned with broader global frameworks like the Declaration on Future Generation. This framework emphasizes our shared responsibility to ensure that digital technologies, including OER, foster inclusive and equitable access to education. Our Congress, yesterday and today, represents a critical step forward in our collective journey towards achieving sustainable development goals. It provides us with diverse perspectives and expertise, from policy leaders to digital innovators, from educators to content creators. These perspectives are essential in building resilient and adaptable learning ecosystems, and thus building inclusive knowledge societies. The sharing of knowledge, championed through OER, exemplifies the power of collective action in addressing inequalities in education. Leveraging AI in this context allows us to scale these efforts further, enabling more inclusive, accessible, and personalized learning opportunities worldwide. Together, let's embrace the potential of OER and artificial intelligence, not only to transform education, but to drive sustainable and equitable growth, reinforcing our commitment to global partnership that leave no one behind. As we look ahead, several priorities will guide our journey forward. Let me briefly mention 3 priorities. First, we must translate the commitments into impactful actions, both at the national level, but also at the institutional level. This will ensure that our promises resonate meaningfully in the lives of learners around the world. Capacity building remains essential. We must continue to equip educators with the tools to effectively use OER and AI in teaching. UNESCO stands ready to support these efforts. Second key priority, sustaining collaboration beyond this Congress, and we believe partnerships will be critical. We need to leverage the networks we have. We need to remain strong and active through their memberships. And these connections will foster ongoing innovation and cooperation, allowing us to track progress, gather valuable data, and hold ourselves accountable to our commitments. Without these efforts, our impact will be limited. The third and last priority, we must also ensure financial sustainability. Again, let me echo what Professor Jeffrey Sachs said this morning. Education financing is a major challenge for everyone. Adequate funding is vital for innovation, for training, and for collaboration. By engaging in cross-sector partnerships, by pooling resources, we can ensure that OER continue to evolve over time. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, the Dubai Declaration also places a strong emphasis on gender equality and on inclusivity. It calls on us to address the unique educational needs of women and girls, ensuring learning materials reflect diverse experiences and empower women and girls worldwide. This is about creating an educational landscape where everyone feels represented and valued, fostering an environment of true inclusivity. As we conclude this Congress, let's not forget that the power of collective action is at the heart of OER. I urge each one of you to carry forward the momentum which we are able to build together over the last 2 days. I urge each one of you to continue and to contribute to our mission to create a future where education is genuinely open and inclusive, where technology uplifts humanity, and where every learner has the resources and tools needed to thrive. Thank you all for the passion, for the dedication, and for the incredible work you bring to this noble mission together. Thank you, and safe travel back home. Our Master of Ceremony asked me that at this point, I declare the third World UNESCO Congress on OER closed. Thank you.